G'day, this is Adam Cogan recording live from NDC Sydney. I'm joined here by the Reverend Geek, David Neal. How are you, David?
Doing well.
David's a speaker, software developer, Microsoft MVP, and today we are going to be talking about leadership. So, David, where do I start? It's a big topic.
It is a big topic.
How about we start with who is a couple of your role models?
Wow, that's a good question. There's been a number of people in my career, in my life, who have had great influence on me and who modeled to me people who care deeply about the team and about individuals and who have demonstrated great influence on people around them. And early on in my career, I didn't really appreciate everything that they did and what they represented and, you know, how they were able to lead people to do, you know, awesome things. And I think leadership is kind of like aesthetics. You know, when you look at an Apple product or, you know, some product that's beautifully designed, has great experience, you can appreciate, you know, what it is that's like, you know it when you see it, but you can't really articulate what it means to be aesthetically pleasing. And I think the same thing is with leadership. You see people who are just, I don't know, somehow glowing with some kind of magic that makes them have a great reputation, have a great, people look up to them and, you know, value their opinion and respect their authority and all those things. And you have, I think it boils down to just having great respect. And so there were a couple of people early in my career who made such an impact on me that it took me a while to understand what are some of those things that.
Can you remember the first role model you had?
Yeah, so soon after college, I was working in tech support for a software company, and we did tax software back in when DOS was a thing, and modems were, you know, how you transmitted information and all that. And I had a manager who was just a very personable guy. He was easy to work with and fun to work with. He, you know, he was not only a great manager as far as ensuring the team was doing all the things that they were supposed to do, he was also making sure that everyone was happy, that he was going around and ensuring the success and that people were not just doing their jobs but enjoying their jobs. And he would probe and ask the right questions to find out, are you know, really satisfied or really working? And it made me feel confident that I could, you know, approach him with things like, you know what, I'm not really liking this particular situation, or I would like to pursue this path in my career, and he be very encouraging.
Right. I remember when I was about 20, I went to the Himalayas and I took a number of books, and one of the books I took was a book by Lee Iacocca. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
So he was the boss of Ford, and he'd taken over from Henry Ford Jr. And his book, you learnt about his humility and how he shared credit and how he would organize his week on a Sunday night. And I always remembered those things. And so for me, I guess he was an early role model. And it was, those little techniques you pick up. How do you fix a disengaged person?
A disengaged person. You know, a lot of the issues that we have in our workplace are just, it's not so much the technology and everything, it's usually the people either having personal issues or issues among each other and so forth. And someone who's disengaged, I mean, that's just a symptom of, you know, something else is wrong. Something, either they're not being, their skills that their talents, what their strengths aren't being utilized, so they're not feeling like rewarded or be happy with the work that they're doing. So I mean, there could be a number of different facets to what's causing that problem of them being disengaged. So I think the first thing would be to really sit down and talk with them and be an active listener to allow them to express what it is that they're dissatisfied with.
And is there certain questions that you can get to the core of it? Because sometimes they're quite defensive as well, and they can be disengaged and kind of blunt and don't care.
Yeah, well, I think having some type of relationship with that person can really help. Bring down the defenses and so forth. Like being kind to them for one thing. Inviting them to lunch. Food seems to be a great way to have different conversations about life and what's going on, and really letting that person know that you care about them, not just about the situation, not about just the work and stuff, but that they're a person and they're valued. I think can go a long ways to allow gaining trust.
Gaining trust, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking to them when they're ready to be spoken to, like in a safe.
Right.
We always have feedback, but are they ready for the feedback?
Yeah.
Is a pretty important thing.
Yeah.
Thinking about like not a leader, but a person who has to deal with a leader. How do you get a leader to change their mind or see the light? Like you can imagine we're talking to clients, and they're the leader, or you're talking to your boss.
Yeah.
And you need him to change his mind. How do you go about that?
That's another hard question. Thank you.
I'm here to help.
I think one thing that does help is building trust with that person, knowing that they can depend on you to do the right thing and to make good decisions. And once you've established that you do good work, that you've made good decisions and so forth, they value your opinion more and more. That you're a trustworthy advocate for the team and for the work that you do. So you definitely have to have trust for someone to listen to what you have to say and want to consider it. I think being well prepared with whatever arguments that you have for changing direction. I think knowing or coming in with the data or with the proof that or your hypothesis, whatever it is that you want to steer in this direction, having convincing information about what it is that you want to do. So having done your research and having done as much due diligence as possible to argue your stance of a particular direction, and also just having empathy for that particular person. Knowing their personality, knowing as much about them as you can. Maybe you can appeal to the things that they like, the things that they appreciate. Like there's different communication styles, there's different types of personalities that the way they like to receive information. And I think being able to understand those types of personalities and cater to them makes it much more palatable.
So an employee who is frustrated with his boss and saying, I don't want to do that job. That's a worthless job. I don't want to make that documentation. I don't want to work on that Saturday. I just want to quit this job. What do you say Like, it's not natural to think I'll have empathy for my boss.
Yeah.
You know, what advice would you give to someone that, you know, on those days where they're just disenfranchised? I don't need this job.
Right. Yeah, I've certainly been there. I've been in situations where I've been really frustrated with what's expected of me and the work that I was expected to do. And I think, you know, first of all, anybody who's in that situation needs to have integrity to do the work that's expected of them. You know, you might not be happy with the work that's expected of you, but the first response is to actually do what's expected. Otherwise, if you're refusing, then you know you're not going to have an argument to come to your boss or whoever to say, I want the situation changed. Like if you're not at least proving that you're capable of following direction and doing orders, then you know the problem, you know, it's got to start with you first. So if you're doing what's expected of you and are a faithful employee doing the things that are expected, then that puts you in a better position to argue for a different circumstance.
You know, I often tell the guys that you take the wins you can take and then try to research on the ones that you've lost and be persistent. Go back again. But try to go back again. You know, let's just say we have clients that won't move to the cloud, you know, and it's really frustrating. They'll make us start building all these VMs on premise or build the architecture the wrong way. And we'll just go back again. But each time go back with a different argument. You don't know if it's cost or if it's security or, you know, just the fear of, I know that, but I don't know that, you know, and keep trying to find out more, but keep being persistent. And it's the same way with a boss.
Yeah.
You know, just continue on.
Yep.
You know. When a deal is done, like you've talked a client into something, you've signed the bottom line, or you've negotiated a salary, but you've been too tough, you know, in your negotiation. Like you've got them to agree to something, you know. You know, we just had a builder who came and did renovations, and maybe we were too tough on the builder. You know, do it, but how do you then check that they're happy with the deal? Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no one wants to feel like they're being taken advantage of. And so you do have to balance that in a negotiation scenario where you don't want to leave that negotiation feeling like they've been bullied into, because they're not going to be happy with the relationship from that point forward. So yeah, I think it's on the person who recognizes that to find a way to make the deal better, more favorable for the other party, to do things that are maybe a little above and beyond what's expected, to show good faith towards that other party that you are, you know, even though you got the upper hand of the deal, you do appreciate that the deal was made, and you're giving them confidence that you're going to treat them as good or better than they expect.
Yeah, I often like when you do like staff reviews and you go through all the goals and expectations of them the next year. You don't want to make it unattainable, or then you give them, you know, a smaller pay rise than what they would maybe hope for. I often check with them after they've had a whole night to let it percolate, and then check with them in the morning how they feel, you know, because you don't want them feeling shafted.
Right. Yeah, that's good to allow them to process that and allow them to communicate or give you feedback later on that can help frame the relationship from that point forward.
Let me ask you about two different types of managers in your opinion. One manager I know, he's quite a strict guy. He knows his stuff, listens to some opinions, says no, we're not going to go down that route, and fairly quickly. And then there's another manager who will listen to multiple opinions, maybe have his opinion, not always say it, say, well, I'll burn a couple of days on investigation both ways, and then the decision is come to by consensus with multiple cooks in the broth.
Yeah.
Which way do you, like one is less waste and we know what we're doing, like
Sure.
people want to know what to do, and we don't need unnecessary being passive aggressive and waste, but you know, what are your thoughts on those two styles of managers?
I think there's a time and a place for both. I think there's a time when you need someone who can make quick decisions, who can weigh, you know, the information that they have and say, well, this is the direction we're going. Someone who has a strong personality, who can lead a team. And I think that has to do with, you know, the people that he's surrounded with, that he's leading. But when you have people who are also very capable and very strong in their ability to provide good information and good direction, that they be empowered to help, you know, influence the situation, to influence, you know, the direction, and know that they're being heard and given the empowerment to help steer the direction of the team as a whole. Because the last thing I want is to continue to feel like that manager is not listening. You know, and I'm fine with someone leading.
Right.
I just want to know that they're hearing my side of the story or my input, regardless if they accept it or not. I want to feel like they are at least, you know, giving it consideration.
And how does a leader make sure that other people know that he took that input, that he was really listening?
Yeah. Those are some active listening skills, right? So being able to articulate and talk back to, here's what I heard you say, or here's what, you know, I think you're saying, and, you know, reply back to them in your own words, you know, what it is that you heard them say. And if they agree with you, then, well, yeah, you know that that person is, you know, is listening and really, you know, hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been in a lot of, you know, executive meetings at Microsoft where I've heard very experienced people, you know, speak back to their opinions on what they've just heard, and I think you're spot on with that. Which leads me into how you conduct meetings. Do you have any tips on how you like meetings to be conducted when you have some authority on how they should be conducted?
Yeah, so it depends on the type of meeting, but one technique that my previous company discovered that I think is extremely powerful is this concept of lean coffee. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I haven't.
But it's a way of conducting agendaless meetings. It's like for strategy meetings, for retrospectives, for where you don't have like, you know, you want to plan for the next 2 weeks or next 6 weeks, or, you know, those types of things, but you don't have like a clear agenda of what it is that we ought to discuss. And so lean coffee in a nutshell is everyone gets to write down their ideas on sticky notes, and every person has the ability to vote twice. They can vote twice on one topic or use their votes on two different topics. And so the topics that have the most votes, they're prioritized. So like the thing that has the most votes, we're going to talk about that first. And each topic is time boxed, maybe 5 minutes. And so you start the discussion on that particular topic, and when the timer goes off at 5 minutes, everybody has a thumbs up to stay on that topic or a thumbs down that we're going to move on. And it democratizes your meeting so that that loudmouth jerk can't railroad the entire meeting. They can't, they have a really strong personality, really strong opinion, but if it's a democracy where everybody has a chance to vote, then they're not going to control that meeting. The meeting's controlled by everyone present. And story after story, when we started using lean coffee as a technique for running these types of meetings, people would leave a meeting saying, you know what, going into that meeting, I thought the thing that we needed to focus on was this. But after we ended up talking about the things that are really the most important things, and being kind of surprised with the outcome of a particular meeting.
That's almost like running mini scrum in a meeting where you quickly prioritize you vote on which topics goes to the top. We might not get to the bottom ones.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so you end up in the end, you leave 5 minutes at the end for like, what are the action items that we have coming out of this meeting, and to catalog the things that we didn't get to, and maybe we keep those things that we didn't get to for the next time we have that meeting, and they get voted on again.
Right. A couple of things I often think about, and when I can get them implemented, which is I like that obviously phones are dangerous in meetings because they're dangerous in all times. You can be at dinner with your wife.
Right.
The fact that you look at a phone and you've got a mean message from somebody, you turn it over, you didn't say anything, but your attitude has changed.
Right.
And also you can be disengaged just having a phone there in the meeting. You're not really present.
Yeah.
The other thing I often tell people is to, if you're the senior guy, you can obviously anchor conversations. So don't say your opinion first, listen to them all and get around, and then give a summary of what you've heard, kind of.
Yep.
So just a reminder to the studio audience, if you want to ask any questions, now we can take questions up by the mic. So I'll continue on. Officers. As a boss, a leader, you can make more decisions. Do you like open plan or offices with doors?
Doors.
Doors.
Yeah. I've worked in both types of environments, and what you find is, open offices are kind of cool. We used to, in my previous company, we had a really unique space. It was very industrial looking. It was fun to look at, fun to be in. You'd walk into that space and go, oh, this is a really cool place to work. It's got a nice vibe to it and everything. But the reality is, people that really want to get their work done, they're wearing headphones. They've got to minimize the distractions somehow. And so you don't have that collaboration that you kind of hope for when you're having an open space. You find people who are finding every excuse to be in a conference room or in a quiet area or whatever. Like when I went into the office, we had this place called the library that had the social construct of, you treat it like a library. You're quiet, you don't distract anyone, you're there to get work done. And that's where I would go. I would go to the library, and get work done. So I think there's the thing that has worked the best in my career so far has been a centralized plan where you have offices that surround a common workspace, where people have their offices, and if they need to have face-to-face conversations, they can come to the center of that space and have around a big table, have those conversations. And we've called those war rooms in the past.
War rooms?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're like the center of it
Yes.
is the war room, and then you got you can retreat back to your personal space.
Yeah, I think I've come full circle as well, but I think I've started thinking light is very important, so I've kind of settled on glass walls a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also want to ask you about induction. Like, one of the first things you want to do is, when people come on board, you want them to understand and live the culture of your place. You want them to find out how you work and work in that manner, or find out that it doesn't suit them, and they fail fast. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on trying to get them to live the culture fast. What's your advice there?
Yeah, so I think culture has a lot to do with leadership in the company. It's what they recognize. It's what they, the things that they celebrate, the things that they emphasize. Where's the emphasis? Where's the things that they're promoted? When something goes wrong, what are the things that they, it's all how the leadership treats the different activities, what they allow, what they permit, what they don't permit, and where's the emphasis. So it has to start from the top, and you can talk about culture all you want, but if the leaders aren't walking it, if they aren't, praising the good behavior and taking action against the bad behavior, then it's meaningless what you have in your culture handbook.
Yeah. I think, David, the more I hear certain companies when I visit them talk about culture, the more they have problems with culture. I don't know if that's a correlation, but it often is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that
it's
we've
not
done...
just lip service. Right?
Yes. One of the things we've done, and I don't know if I thought about it as culture at the time, is I invested heavily in an induction system.
Yeah.
And to get people on board quick, maybe I invested too much in it. The induction was a little long. And then I polished things up I got Raj to make this video, so people watched a video when they first came in, which explained a lot of the core things. So I got consistency, kind of a nicer experience. And one of the things I really noticed is sometimes the guys join the company, they come into the company and they go through induction by themselves and you get through that. And then other guys need to go and join a scrum team straight away. And then they're doing induction slower, bit by bit, with more support.
Right.
It's a completely different experience for the employee when they're going through that with support versus when they're going through it by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently joined a company called Okta, and they had a full day of onboarding where you got to hear about all the different types of teams and support systems, and how to get connected with IT and all the benefits. That all was pretty straightforward and fantastic. They did a really great job. The thing that impressed me the most, though, is that on day 2, every new hire was required to go and volunteer at a nonprofit in town, and go spend a couple of hours either helping to feed some children, or my particular group, we went into an apartment housing complex that was for children with cancer.
Right.
And some of us helped do some cleaning, some of us helped serve some food, some of us did arts and crafts with the kids, and that was definitely out of my comfort zone. But at the same time, it really sent the message home that as a company, we put our, we're not just paying lip service. This is part of who we are, and this is, if you want to be an employee here, here's what we expect you to do.
And you do that in the first week of being at the company?
Yes.
And then did you do it again?
There's ongoing programs to get people to participate with different events, different volunteer opportunities, and so forth.
Interesting. All right, I want to take a question from the audience. Let's take the first one.
So your talk this morning was like tips for reluctant leaders.
Yes.
I'm curious about your personal experience as a reluctant leader, perhaps. What would have been one of the biggest challenges you faced as a leader early on? And then what did you do to grow past that or overcome that? Yeah.
So in my career, there's been a number of times where I'm a good developer, right? So they recognize that I've got skills to be an architect, to deliver software, and I got promoted into being a team lead or a manager for a team. Well, for the longest time, I didn't feel like that was, it was not something I wanted to do. And so I didn't take it seriously. So there was 2 problems. part of it was my fault because I wouldn't take being a manager serious enough. I wouldn't apply myself to be good at that role. And so I would just kind of do the bare minimum to get by, and I would just ignore, people thought I was a nice guy, but I was not managing and leading the team like I should. But the other, on the flip side, the companies that often promoted me into management did not give me the accountability and the resources to be effective in that kind of position. So they didn't give me training. They didn't give me someone who could to act as a mentor to show me the ropes as to what it means to be a good manager. And so I didn't have that accountability. It wasn't until much later in my career when I kind of recognized, hey, I need these skills. I need to have this experience if I want to progress. And I feel like I now have something to contribute as a team. And that was a kind of an aha moment for me. But one of the largest, to answer the other part of your question, one of the largest challenges I came to was in one of those leadership or management roles. I had to make a hard decision of letting someone go because of conflict that was in the team that they were, so I had to go through that process of, meeting with that person multiple times and let them know what was, that their behavior and some of the things that they were doing was not healthy for the team, and eventually, having to terminate them. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my career.
Especially when they're an awesome developer.
They're a good, and they were a good developer. So the interesting thing about it is that kind of gives me encouragement is that person, in over the years, every time I run into them, they still treat me with much respect and talk about me among others with great respect and have nothing negative to say about the time that they worked for me at that company. Kind of blows my mind.
I think one of the things that it's a really hard thing to do, but when you go home, you're frustrated, you often will tell your partner the story of injustice at work. But you'll tell the story as though from your own point of view. So you'll say, all right, this is what I said. Mm-hmm. Of course, turn into a bit of a caricature, make the language a bit simpler. Right. What he said. And of course, you'll get validation and you're reinforcing that. But if you were to tell the story and take out the names and say, look, this type of thing happened and this type, and you get genuine feedback rather than constant validation, which is kind of poisoning your own mind. It's a dangerous type of thing.
Yeah. So I've been really fortunate that my spouse is very insightful. She knows a lot more about relationships than I do, and so when I've had those kinds of scenarios, she's always been very, insightful into, well, what if that other person is going through this, or what if that other person is, she starts looking at it from the angle of what might the other the kind of, what are the motivations for that other person, that they're behaving the way that they do, and it helps to bring a different perspective. And like now, after that's happened so many times, when I'm in a situation, I can start to, her voice is now in my head. It's like, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to think about why this person is acting the way that they are, and have a little more empathy and figure out, what's driving them to behave this way.
So there's different types of managers, or different, and I think you could categorize them in kind of servant leaders, in terms of they like to actively help and be part of the team, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you got the authoritarian style where they listen and they say, do it that way, that's the way we're going to do it. And then you got the laissez-faire, hands-off, you guys will come up with something good, you're smart, you'll work it out.
Yeah.
What works best for software teams?
what I prefer is someone who's an advocate, who is they're a leader, but their goal is to make the team successful. They want to do whatever it is that they can do to either remove red tape or remove blockages, or make sure that the team is running on all cylinders, and constantly asking, what can we do to improve? What can I do to improve? What can us as a team do to improve? I very much appreciate, as I look back in retrospect, those times when I've had servant leaders who have been kind of self-sacrificing to say, it's not about me, it's not about my position of authority, it's about what does it take to have us to be successful, and being there as an advocate for everyone else on the team.
So to what extent is leadership about self-sacrifice? Are we talking small amounts of self-sacrifice, like giving credit and not taking the credit, or like how much sacrifice are we talking?
Well, there's work involved. There's work, as a software developer, you're doing work as the coding and everything, whereas the servant leader, they're doing whatever it is that the programmers are not, they want to focus on coding. So they're doing all the other things that help to grease the wheel or ensure that the coders are well informed, have tasks lined up, have work in the queue. They're doing all those things to ensure that the team is running as efficiently as possible. So as far as like self-sacrificing is not only credit like you talked about, but kind of shielding the team from the rest of the noise and the politics or whatever else that may be going on.
Painful stakeholders up there.
Yeah, that may be causing conflict. You want to keep your team happy. Is there any value in them knowing about that conflict? Well, if there's not, then you focus on resolving that conflict and allow your team to continue doing the work that they're doing.
Part of the problem is that advertising kind of what the team has done, you're taking credit as well for things that a great team has done, and a disenfranchised person can say, oh, he's taking more credit, etc.
Well, that has to do with like language you choose to use and posture and things like, you're not going to use the terms I, you can say we, it's really important that, that people recognize that this is not something I've accomplished, this is something that my team has accomplished with my direction or with my ability to make sure that they're able to do all the things that they're doing.
And I think for that to happen, because we'll all make mistakes, you've got to continually get retrospectives.
Yeah.
One of the guys at my company says, Adam can't have dinner without doing a retrospective after, so I always encourage it. But I might just take another question from the audience.
Yep.
So my question is in relation to when you are leading a team and where you might have an underperforming employee. Now, there are obviously circumstances where you have to let the person go because of whatever reason, like you mentioned earlier. My question is in relation to the situation or the scenario where the employee is kind of borderline. They're doing okay, but they're not really performing as well as you would like.
Yep.
Do you tend to err on the side of mercy or justice? In other words, do you err on the side of investing in the person heavily over a long period of time? Or do you sort of say, well, let's part ways and not go through that? Like where do you err on that spectrum?
Well, me personally, I go towards giving folks as many chances as I feel are necessary. I'm very fortunate that I've made mistakes in my career, and I've had people in place who have been able to coach me through those mistakes and to come out the other side a better person. So my first reaction would be, I want to make number one goal is you want to make people successful, and people are people. Everybody has value. Everybody needs to feel like they have value and significance. And so the goal of any type of conflict resolution on your team for someone who's underperforming or whatever ought to be to restore them to a place of value and worth, and to give them meaningful work. So it could be a personal problem, could be a problem that they're some conflict that they're having with other people on the team, could be like they're not getting enough feedback or direction from, like I struggle with not having clear objectives, and maybe it's a communication issue where they're not getting clear objectives about what it is that they're expected to do and to work on. So really diving into that situation and with the attitude of, I want to make this person successful to the best of my ability.
I want to be successful. We all want our employees to be able to think deeply about problems, especially in software. It's really important to think deeply about problems. They need a great working environment and a certain culture that encourages that, because everyone thinks deeply about problems in different ways. And obviously we have problems about getting people out of the zone all the time. Mm-hmm. So as a manager, is it good to have an open door policy or a closed door policy? Like, I often will work in the boardroom and I'll work there and people will stroll in and ask questions, and
sure.
I'm doing something, then they ask another question, they walk out. And I think I encourage that because, or I allow that because I don't really want to, I feel guilty if I'm the blocking issue.
Yeah.
But then I speak to other business owners who have also a bunch of employees, and they go, I'd never do that. I don't know how that can work, because if anyone wants to speak to me, book a meeting with my PA and I'll arrange a 10-minute one-on-one. And that's, don't just walk in my office. That's not, I can't do any good thinking either. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, two sides of that. One is, I want to be approachable. I want anyone that if they're going through an issue that needs immediate resolution, that they need immediate feedback on, they ought to trust that I'm going to be hospitable and kind and so forth, and that I'm approachable, and they can come to me with any issues at any time. On the same time, or in the same vein, or on the flip side of that, is you want to model respect. That you respect the people that you work with, you respect their time, you respect their space, and that you model that if you're respectful, that someone's in that zone, they're working hard, or in having those deep creative moments, that you respect. You're not just going to pop in on them and interrupt their work, right? So I think you're inspiring them to know when is it appropriate, when is it a good time, or when is it what are the signals to know that now's a good time that you can just pop in and have a conversation or whatever. But being approachable through Slack or email or whatever I think being too formal about it, to say we need to schedule, this is how you communicate with me, is by scheduling a meeting. That's pretty off-putting, I think.
Right. It can also let them, distill their thoughts quickly, and so you're making it important enough that you're giving dedicated time. Yeah. But yes,
I think I'm with you. I think it sends the wrong signals. It's like, your time is not valuable, my time is. Right. It's like, I can pop in on you anytime.
Yes.
And interrupt the work that you're doing and ask you what the status is or whatever. But hey, if you're going to talk to me, you got to schedule a meeting. That's just not cool.
All right. So David, I want to finish on a kind of an important issue that I think nobody likes favoritism. Nobody likes seeing a boss be favourites. And I try to be consistent where possible, but also people are different, so you want to change your style.
Sure.
And I did this great interview last year with Kylie Hunt, who talked about the 5 love languages.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
the 5 love languages being gifts. Giving people some people like receiving gifts.
Right.
Some people like time. Some people like touch. Like Yuli in our office, he just wants a hug all the time. And then you've got acts of service and another one. Kylie will kill me because I can't remember anymore.
Yeah.
But when you are treating people differently like that, you can be kind of accused of favoritism, right?
Right.
How do you manage that? Giving one person a gift, giving the other person, they don't care about that, they just want some hugs or nice praise in front of the company.
Yeah. Well, I think as long as people are getting attention, they are getting whatever it is that their love language is, as long as they are receiving that, I think they're going to be feel appreciated and feel like they're being valued. I don't know that they're, I can't imagine, but they're feeling jealous of, hey, this person got a gift and I didn't. But if that's not their love language, then
They forget it.
they're not going to care.
Because I think everyone in the end likes all those things.
Yeah.
They just have kind of a primary love language.
Right. Right. So there's got to be some amount of equality, but I was having a conversation with someone earlier. It's like, well, some people, there's different personalities. Some people are just better performers, or they're doing things, above and beyond what the other people in the team are doing. Do you not reward that? Do you hold back the reward for those people because you don't want to make the others, feel bad or something like that? And I really think that things ought to be rewarded when they happen, not reserved to, like, okay, at the end of the quarter we're gonna reward everybody for the contributions that they made. No, they need to have acknowledgement and reinforcement at the time that it happens. You don't want to have to wait 6 weeks for somebody to tell you that, hey, that thing you did, that was pretty cool. Like, oh, well, thanks, I guess.
And what is your love language?
All of them.
All of them. Touch? I can give you a big hug.
Sure, we can hug it out.
All right, so the last question, how do you feel you want to be remembered as a mentor? Do you want to be remembered as hungry, or what was the triangle?
Humble and smart.
Humble, smart, or hungry?
Yeah. I guess humility is the top one that I really want to aspire to, that people remember, have respect for me and will know that I've done everything that I can do to make other people successful. And that's what I feel like the heart of service and I guess you could say my love language is acts of service. I think it's
service. All right.
It's,
I'll do something for you. I'll publish this video.
All right.
So thank you very much, David.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And this is a fantastic interview. I think people got lots of things out of it. And this is Adam Cogan signing off for SSW TV.